are once again watching Professor Upsidaisium's Visiosonic Audiographic Steampunk Archive. In this transmission, Veronique Chevalier hosts the panel Steampunk as Superculture at DragonCon 2013.
Okay, there we go. Lori, can we find someone on the team to kind of see about doing something about the lights so they can see the screen a little bit more? Thank you. All right, everybody, you are here for the Steampunk Superculture, or rather Steampunk as Superculture Symbiosis between various subcultures and fandoms panel. That's a mouthful. So I'd like to introduce you all to our panelists for our entertainment. First up, the organizer of this panel, Miss Veronique Chevalier. I'm on this list too. I'm Dr. Q. I'm the track director here. Also introducing Thomas Willeford. That's Brian C. Of Brute Force Studios. Let's see, we have Brian Kesinger.
Hi, everyone.
Whoa, dark. Yeah. You bring the darkness. And Sheyne Fleischer. What? Sheyne. Sorry. Sheyne. Hi. You know, that whole part of that introduction we just had 5 minutes ago, I should have remembered it. No, I'm sorry. Of the Ligustina. I'm going to shut up now. Veronique, this is your show, so take it away.
Need some cordage.
Hello.
It actually picks up fine. Just
okay.
Can you guys hear us?
So magnifique to see you today. Can you hear me now? Now you hear me. Okay. So welcome. Welcome everybody. My name is Veronique Chevalier. I am the Weird Val of Steampunk and Dark Cabaret, and obviously I am not a sound technician. And I am not of sound mind, for I am a mad demoiselle, as some people are mad scientists, perhaps. So, short introduction of myself. I am an accidental steampunk, as pretty much everything in my life is an accident. But I am very happy to be here. I have performed all over North America for 5 years with these steampunk events, and I have seen this amazing burgeoning and blossoming forth of steampunk, and it's so beautiful and so magnifique and so mad. So I'm very attracted, of course. And so I bring to you a bird's eye view, as it were, of this interesting, burgeoning, beautiful culture. And so without further ado, I will have my next panelist introduce his fine self.
Hi, everyone. Yes, too loud, sorry. My name is Brian Kesinger. I am a steampunk artist. By day, I am a story artist at Walt Disney Animation Studios. And over the last couple years, I've been spending my own personal time creating steampunk art. And it's been quite a journey, starting from a complete fan, which I still am, and not even knowing that much about steampunk, to being here with you all today, which is very exciting. Never been to DragonCon before, or Atlanta before. So I'm here with my new book, which is pretty exciting too, Walking Your Octopus. And it's been a pretty fascinating journey over the last year, from doing a couple silly drawings of a girl with a pet octopus to actually having a published book and being on a panel with these amazing people. So thank you very much for having me.
Next.
My name is Thomas Willeford. I own a company called Brute Force Studios. The reason we have that name is we don't really know what we're doing. We just keep applying brute force till something pops out. My claim to fame is I wrote this book, Steampunk Gear, Gadgets, and Gizmos, which is how to make your own steampunk stuff, and it's not a jewelry book. That was one of the when McGraw-Hill called me and said, "Hey, we want you to write a book," I said, "I'm not writing a jewelry book." There's just too many out there. You got to make the cool stuff. And that's what I do. My other claim to fame is, you see the steampunk episode of Castle? I made the arm Nathan Fillion was wearing and some of the other props for it. And there's a brief little cameo of me wandering by in a British Victorian officer's outfit looking terribly confused, because I was. And that's pretty much me and her.
Hi, my name is Sheyne Fleischer, and I'm a member of the League of Steam, which is a steampunk performance troupe. One of my own little independent claims to fame is that I was named one of LA Weekly's People of LA in 2010, because apparently I'm a busybody and I keep my nose in all of the sort of subculture stuff and let everybody else know what the heck is going on, because it is so much more fun to show up to an event that has a lot of people versus being the only person who shows up to an event. I guess I also have a few little things. I was in the same episode of Castle that Thomas was. I actually think that's the first time we met in person. And then another episode of Castle when they went to a steampunk SuperCulture. Me and my husband were also in the background of that in our steampunk outfits.
And, the invisible Dr. Q, I was going to
Hey,
have
I'm
you.
adjusting the levels. Give me a sec.
Dr. Q, who was recently on Face Off as a camera person there.
Oh, shush. I was not on Face Off.
He's got a
a
doppelganger on Face Off.
You do.
I know. I've been told.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Q. I'm the track director for Alternate History. When I'm not doing that, I'm the co-founder of a group called the Artifice Club. We are now a newly minted nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting steampunk and retro vintage arts everywhere. That's the short version.
So as you can see, we have a magnifique array of fantastic and accomplished people to help give you an overview. And just so you know, I'm so sorry I forgot to be oiled before I came. I'm making all the squeaks. So please excuse me. Sorry, Dr. Q.
That's all right.
So we will blow forth, discuss, and then at the end we will leave time for your questions, so do not worry, you are part of this too. So I will start by asking each of my panelists, in their way, how they feel steampunk has deepened their experience professionally or personally. For instance, are they getting more work as a steampunk? Has steampunk affected the way that they spend their off hours and leisure? And the way they decorate their home and so forth. So I will start with Monsieur Brian.
Sure. Yeah. So it certainly has enriched my life in many ways. Speaking artistically, I can tell you it's been great, because as a story artist, I get to draw for a living, which is pretty awesome, and I'm very grateful every day for that opportunity. But a lot of the animation process is getting notes, getting revisions from directors, art directors, and having to turn those revisions around pretty quick. And it was nice for me to have a little escape from that, so I could go home, draw a pretty picture, put it in a frame, and just say it's done, and no one else can give any notes on it. And so there was some great joy in that, and the fact that what I was drawing in that time was steampunk was just because I really liked the aesthetic. I started, two of the movies I worked on at Disney were Treasure Planet and Atlantis, and both of those could be argued as being pretty steampunk.
Argued nothing. I totally count that.
Yeah. So I spent about 4 years working on those two movies together, and the drawing all that gears and all the submarine stuff really kind of implanted that iconography in my head. So when I was able to start doing my own drawings, I was naturally kind of inclined to drawing those shapes. As well as drawing pretty girls, because who doesn't like drawing pretty girls? So it was my free time after all. So being able to put this stuff online as a hobby, and then seeing the tremendous amount of response I was getting for it, certainly has brought more people to my art than doing art by myself before, which was maybe not steampunk art, but just more fantasy. I'm a big D&D guy. So, that kind of thing. So steampunk definitely has brought new people, new friends to my art and to my personal life. So I would say yes.
Very good.
Short answer, yes.
Oh, and I'm being a mademoiselle in scatter. The earlier slide was a photo of the Gerhardt Steampunk Glamour Review, and Lamar was on the cover because I I have my ways. There's also an article, an interview with me, so to find out more about the obscure Mademoiselle they let out of the asylum just for the event. So, Monsieur Thomas, how do you feel that steampunk has deepened your experiences?
I'm gonna skip through. There we go.
Steampunk is the present version of steampunk is this whole thing is really weird to me. Back in 1988, I'd been into Victoriana and science fiction, and a friend of mine gave me a game called Space 1889, Victorian science fiction, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! They have this." I was one of the 5 people who ever played this system. This was great, and I loved it. I got really into it, and we made a few little props and stuff. And in 1994, I went on a quote Victorian / steampunk camping trip. 8 people were supposed to go. 2 of us went, and we froze our asses off because we decided to go camping in October in northern Pennsylvania. Yeah, that was really bright of us. We're a couple of geniuses. But I was into this. And then a couple of years later, and stuff, a friend of mine, Professor Maelstrom, who's over in England, she's an ex-girlfriend of mine, actually. She didn't know what steampunk was. Now she's one of the most famous steampunk designers over in England. And I said that I was going to a steampunk event. She said, "Isn't steampunk that thing you do with a couple of your friends?" I said, yeah, right. So the idea that this thing I was into suddenly is becoming something where this is all I do for a living, is either write books or make steampunk stuff. And by the way, the people who, people will say, "Oh, steampunk has peaked and it's a jump in the shark and everything." I almost wish it was, because I wouldn't be so exhausted all the time, because I'm up to my ass in steampunk. Can you make this for me? No, I can't make you. I'm busy. There's more than enough of it going on. I don't know where they're getting their information from sometimes. But the idea that I am that
Cell phones off.
busy because of something that a few friends of mine thought was interesting, and I got to watch it grow up and fight with its brothers and sisters. By the way, I think steampunk is one of the most kvetchy societies in the world. It's kind of fun because you get online and suddenly they're arguing, and some of my favorite arguments are great because they've introduced me to people. That's how it's enriched my life, the idea of that my thing has become something fun.
If you think steampunk is the most kvetchy, you've never hung out with gothic lolitas.
Mean girls are insane.
Well, I'm just gonna. So
They're the mean girls of cosplay. That's what I call them.
Well, how steampunk really influenced my personal life is that I still consider myself a gothic lolita. I love the fashion. I've been involved in it since the early 2000s, and then I started dating the gentleman who is now my husband a few years ago, and he'd done the dutiful boyfriend thing and put on a nice suit and gone with me to a few different steampunk lolita events, and then we kind of started poking around online, and we discovered steam fashion on LiveJournal, and one day he was like, if you do steampunk, we can dress up together and go to events together. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So then we started doing couples costumes and steampunk together, and it was a very large part of our relationship. Within the first year of us dating, we went to Steam Powered in San Mateo, which I think was the first steampunk convention in Northern California. And I dragged him to DragonCon a few years after that, and we ended up getting married last November.
Pictures.
Yep, pictures. Where we had a steampunk-themed wedding, and it's been a very large influence. Of course, I can't exaggerate enough that meeting up with League of Steam members in Los Angeles and kind of just not going away until they finally made me one of them. Really, and then same with Glenn when he moved down and started living with me in LA. We both just kind of didn't go away. And so steampunk really influenced our personal lives. Our entire friend groups morphed, meeting all of these effers at every event we go to, and it just totally changed my entire social structure, which was a really interesting transformation. And then as far as work goes, no really big changes. I work in reality television, and I don't work on any reality shows that have anything to do with anything steampunk or costumes, but every moment that I'm not working or sleeping is involved with doing League of Steam stuff, or social media involved with League of Steam, or trying to come up with what's the next costume and next, new web series and all that stuff. So steampunk has pretty much taken over my life since about 2008 until now. And I agree with Thomas about the peaking. To say that it's peaking, that means there's just as much steampunk ahead of us, which is behind us, which is the definition of a peak. So, if steampunk goes away and I'm able to sit at home at night and read books and play board games.
I haven't read a book in 2.5 years.
Unless it's a steampunk book, of course. I would love to go back and read fantasy again, or I don't know, other non-fiction, non-awesome books like this, because I own this, but yeah. So blah. I got autograph from you.
You're the other person who owns it.
Professor Q.
All right. Well, I suppose I should talk. See, I'm trying to track down Sherry Priest because she was supposed to be here. All right. So let's see. Me. I actually, were it up to me, no one would know who I was. That's kind of how I like it. But the problem is, there was a whole lot of great stuff happening in Atlanta, and I mean just fantastic people. And I just basically said, why aren't we doing parties here? I mean, I have to drive 6.5 hours to go to Raleigh-Durham to go hang out with a bunch of steampunk kids. And I'm kind of one of those people that if I see a problem and it's in my power to do something about it, I'll just fix it. So my wife and I, my wife's been doing burlesque for about 11 years, and they at the time had a studio that they were renting, and they needed to basically pay the rent. And they didn't want to do a burlesque show every month, so in the off months, we decided to do a little steampunk party. We thought it'd be nice, low-key, help keep the lights on. We thought maybe there'd be 40 or 50 people show up, and then like 150 people showed up. So we're like, okay, well, we've got something here. Let's make it bigger, let's make it better. And the wife told me that, that needs a face man. I'm like, well, you're gorgeous, you can do this, right? She's like, oh, no. You got to get up there. So I did, reluctantly, kicking and screaming the whole way. But I would not be here were it not for the steampunk kids. For the culture is the reason why I'm here. And it's culture, capital C, like the people, the warmth, the sharing of everything, like everyone's enthusiasm is what excites me to do it. And so we just keep making it bigger and better and more expensive, and then they gave us this track. So it's kind of fun. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. So those are the 2 things that I do. Oh yeah, and DJing, that too. Just because it's fun. But that's the other thing though. It's like they're makers. It's no offense to the makers present, but it's very easy to find them. Their stuff is very visible. It gets shared over the internet with reckless abandon. But my own thing that I loved myself was a lot of the music and the performers. And I found that without someone really kind of going near and far and playing other people's weird eclectic music that kind of fits within steampunk, no one knows who they are. And so yeah, for me, music was kind of my gateway drug. And I do my best when folks say, what kind of DJ are you? I go, I play music you've never heard of. That's my job.
That's great.
And my job is to expose you to these things. So I feel like if I play a set that does not have at one point someone coming up going, so who is this? Then I have failed. Thankfully, that has yet to happen in the 3 years I've been doing it.
That's great.
And I just wanted to mention on the subject of the music, Mr. Jordan Bodwell in Seattle. He has a website, sepiacord.com.
Oh, Sepiacord's great. It's an invaluable resource.
He is the genesis for why I am here, because I make the mad music. I am playing on Dr. Demento. That was what I was doing, and somehow he found some of my music, and he loved it, and he started playing it, and the steampunks started playing it, and I started getting invited to all these magnifique events. So the one thing I love so much about steampunk is this acceptance and this flexibility and this love of the quirkiness and the love of something interesting and offbeat and in the best possible taste also. So you cannot lose with this wonderful combination. And so my next question to all of my panelists is, how do your interactions in the steampunk realm and with other steampunks compare to other subgenres and cultures to which you have moved? Do you feel accepted, or do you feel we're friendlier or less friendlier than the other cultures you have experienced? And we touched on that, but we'll ask Monsieur Thomas here.
I'm going to ask the audience a question, a little one. Do you want the truth, or do you want me to tell you what I'm supposed to say? Truth, okay? It's been a mixed bag. I have become, someone once said I was a steampunk celebrity. No, I'm just old. I've been around a long time. But it's also made me a target. I've had people say hideous things, and I usually go, no, it was 5 sheep. That's my way of dealing with it. If you set a trap, I'm going to step in it, pry the jaws open, and go, you got to do better than that. But I've also met some incredible people who've been lovely. I mean, a 9-year-old kid, or I think it was 9 or 10 years old, came up to me at San Diego Comic-Con and said, are you Lord Archibald Featherstone? I said, yes, I am. He goes, I'm such an admirer of your work, and put his hand out there. And I was like, oh, I don't even like kids. I'm shaking his hand. And my next book's a kid's book, so how does that work? But yeah, it's been a mixed bag. There have been some, it's a new emerging culture, so people are trying to find their place in it. And because it grew up on the internet, there's a lot of that feeling of anonymity, so that you can say whatever you want, and you don't find you. I will find you. That's the thing. I'm just like, oh, you live in Germany? I'm going over to Germany anyway. Knock on your door. You want to say that to my face? No. Okay. But yeah, it has been a mixed bag of, you know, the earlier fandoms were all, we're all great, we're all lovely, we're trying to be hippies. This one's saying, I'm going to put my imperialism over top of you and take over your lands. You know, so that's my point of view on it.
I've had a really different experience than Thomas. I'm not as visible on the internet. I'm not a creator or a maker as much, and I don't particularly do photo shoots and put my image out there. My experience tends to be a lot more of a local subcultures and local events than traveling to conventions around the country. And again, I always preface this, coming from Gothic Lolita into steampunk was like night and day. When my first steampunk event, I realized there were people there my parents' age down through children who were dressed up, and it was the first time I'd ever been involved in a subculture where it was all ages. I mean, that was mind-boggling to me. Again, I sound like a broken record, but I realized I was about 10, 15 years older than every Gothic Lolita I was interacting with, and then suddenly a steampunk event, and I'm in the young mean, and it was like awesome. And one of the things that I found really involved and engaging about steampunk, and I'm not, since doing League of Steam stuff, I obviously do not do nearly as much small community stuff because we just don't have time. I don't have time for that personally. But in the very beginning, the openness, like, you would walk up to somebody and go, oh my God, I love your costume. And they would go into like 15 minutes talking about, well, I sourced this corset from a website, and I had this skirt made from a bed sheet. And just like everybody was down for sharing their tricks and sharing the tips. And it was a costume. What I really loved about steampunk, I am a woman of size. I am not slender. I've always felt awkward doing cosplay because no characters were ever drawn like me. Steampunk, on the other hand, I get to make a costume for myself. And I see people always doing costumes for themselves, for their body types, for their interests. And I just found that so refreshing and engaging and exciting because everybody could look good if they just put a little bit of attention to dressing for their body type, which is one of my big rallying calls. Don't try to dress in an outfit that looks good on somebody a completely different size. Like Veronique and I, even if I had her costume in my size and she had my costume in her size, it wouldn't look nearly as good on ourselves because it doesn't suit our body types. And that's what I really loved. I think I've meandered a lot from your initial question.
It's okay.
But
Many feet.
yeah, I found steampunk a lot more open. I also kind of avoid conflict, unlike Thomas. I remember a lesson my mother taught me that if you have nothing nice to say, you just don't say anything.
If you have nothing nice to say, say it to me. I'll tell everyone else.
Okay, that might be true too.
No, maybe it's because I've been in the South for a while, but you know, I've adopted that same thing. If you don't have nothing nice to say, keep your mouth shut. But I have an internet policy that I adhere to, which keeps everything kind of positive. Which is, by all means, yeah, go to the social media, take a look at everything, just never read the comments.
Right.
You stay out of the comments, you're fine. Everything's positive and everything's everything comes up roses. But I mean, I'm more with Sheyne in that, like, it's been overwhelmingly positive for me. I mean, there have been a couple of bad apples, and that's every time I do it, I reprimand myself for reading the comment section, and it always stems from that, and it's always internet based, and it's exactly like that's the trap that you need to not fall into. But generally speaking, on my end, I was petrified of actually getting to hobnob with musicians whose work I've been listening to for years. And then to, like, for example, Avenue Park, like when I opened a show for them, I honestly thought that I would get, DJs tend to either get marginalized or embraced, and they really could go either way. And I've been not only, like, embraced, but I have musicians sending me tracks before they get released going, hey, can you make sure you play this at the next one of your things that you're doing? I went, oh my God, I'm friends with musicians that I really like. This is really cool. I'm getting free music, and I mean, I'm still paid for it, mind you, a lot, but still, I mean, it's really fun. I mean, that's the only other kind of scene I'm in, is other than steampunk, is music. And in my case, it's been overwhelmingly embracing, which is nice. I've dipped my feet in costuming once or twice, but generally speaking, I tend to dress for comfort. And looking good is kind of a secondary effect sometimes. Doesn't always look good, but at least I'm comfy and it works. My favorite costume actually is the lab coat thing I wear, which I call the steampunk onesie. Under it, I'm really just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I just throw on the lab coat over top. No one's the wiser. It's fine.
And you, Brian, how do you feel about your interactions?
Yeah, I find it pretty positive too. I think to speak to the comments, because that's great advice. And what I like about steampunk is that, unlike other kind of fan genres or whatever you want to categorize it, we're creating the content. You guys are creating characters with your outfits. I was creating characters with my drawings. We're all doing our own stories. We're all storytellers. And we get to define what steampunk is as a group. Not like we got to wait for George Lucas to say what the next Star Wars is going to be. We get to say...
Lots of spaceships.
Yeah, hopefully X-Wings. So you really got to do it for yourself, and that's kind of how I was doing this art. And because I was the same way, I'm like, they tell us at Disney, because goodness knows we have a big target on our back. They tell us don't engage. That's like when people start giving negative feedback, where they're like, don't engage. So that's always in my head when like a post comes up. But yeah, you can circumnavigate that completely by just putting the stuff up there. You wanted to share it. I wanted to share my art, not for praise, but just check it out. Look, it's steampunk art. And praise came, and I think people can tell the difference. I think when you're doing something for approval, we're all pretty smart, and we can kind of suss out that, oh, they're just trying to grab a trend, as opposed to like you guys out there who are here in full costume because you love the genre, you're doing it for real. And if people get that, and I choose to surround myself with people like that, so yeah, I think, does that answer the question?
Could you discuss those pictures?
Yeah, well, that's you on the left, right?
Really?
Yeah, so that's Veronique.
No, but tell the medium.
Oh yeah, so I paint with tea, not traditional painting. I use a little bit of watercolor, but for the most part, those two paintings there are for my Tea Girl series, and I start with a line drawing of a steampunk character, and then I'll go in with different flavors of tea. The one on the left was Mandarin Spice, and then the one on the right for the steampunk geisha was green tea. And then I'll go in and mix in a little bit of watercolor just to give some value difference to them. But yeah, it's something just unique. I wanted to do kind of vintage illustrations. What I like so much about steampunk is that in this digital age we're living in, we're all making physical objects. So for me it was important to not just do more digital art that's out there everywhere. I wanted to do something that was physical, so original art, and give it a vintage feel. So I read about tea staining and kind of led to these kind of unique looks. And also I wanted to kind of play with what I had seen trending in steampunk art, which was a lot of like more post-apocalyptic stuff. And I wanted to push kind of the beauty angle of it and do more fashionable and also more multicultural stuff as well. So that's kind of how I arrived at those that look, and I think that that's what really caught some internet fire as the sharing happened.
Do not lick the paintings.
Yeah, well, they smell very good, and anytime someone buys an original, I always tell them that if they ever get tired of it, they can warm up some water and just dip the drawing in there, and it'll go away, and they can drink their art. So.
I will never do that to the original sketch that I got from you. Never.
I didn't get originals.
I think this just underscores just the sense of play that is found within steampunk.
What? That was pretty playful.
Yes. Soundwave as a player piano.
Yes.
I have that T-shirt.
Awesome.
So, that's one thing, the sense of inventiveness, the sense of exploring. As Thomas had mentioned in one of my previous incarnations on the same panel, was the Victorian era was an era of adventures and discovery, all kind of new inventions. I mean, there was imperialism and there was a lot of negative aspect as well, but we are trying to appropriate from the past the things we most admire and repurpose them in the maker spirit as steampunks to work within our present and work towards a better future, or so I hope. I think many of us also envision that and hope for that as well. And there's also very much a countercultural revolution here, because we actually have steampunk suffragettes, again taking that spirit of the feisty woman of the past and making her contemporary, and also including men, of course. And then also steampunk multiculturalism, which Brian just touched upon, which is very important because, okay, Queen Victoria and the British Empire, very important things, but you're omitting most of the rest of the planet. And people were alive and making their own form of discovery within their cultures. So again, I find that steampunk brings this great diversity and joy and experimentation and I hope acceptance. We do have our few naysayers, but we try to just have them go in the corner and play among themselves. Because for the most part, not play with themselves. Although, don't let me stop you. Anyway, we're not going to go there because we have some young people with us today.
Oh, we do.
But anyway, so I think that steampunk is becoming a superculture because it has all of these different facets. Someone wakes up one day and goes, "Well, I haven't seen any steampunk Maori, done, so I'm going to do that." And they do it, and it's wonderful, and we accept it. And so I think that more and more people are coming to us just because we are accepting, and we do encourage that exploration and that experimentation. Don't you agree?
Yeah, completely. I mean, that's the fun part, is the what if of it all. It really is something where you can play, you can create your own things like I talked about, or you could say, what if Optimus Prime was completely steam powered? What would he look like, and what would he transform into? And everyone kind of digs that. There's definitely, it's kind of like two subclasses of steampunk, is the original stuff and then stuff that has been steampunked. And I know I got a lot of airtime with some of the stuff that I had steampunked, especially our good friend Steampunk Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, John.
Yeah.
He certainly made his ego 20 times bigger than it already was.
Which is why he can't be in the room right now.
I know, it's just too big for the room.
Yeah, maximum occupancy. But he had commissioned me to do a commission of his Steampunk Boba Fett cosplay, which was an amazing cosplay that he does. So I did the piece, and then to surprise him, I actually got the image licensed through Lucas to be an official T-shirt. We now have T-shirts with him on the front that actually says Star Wars on the label, which is very exciting for the both of us.
It made his century.
Awesome.
For those of you that don't know John Strangeway, he's a member of our track team here. He'll also be on a couple of panels throughout the weekend, and you'll see him here a lot. I think Tony back there, John and Tony are going to be doing a boasting contest later on tonight.
Awesome.
So that'll be fun.
Actually, to go off of what Brian said about steampunking an item, one of the first times that I was on this panel with Veronique at Kamikaze last year, one of the main things that we said about how steampunk is a superculture is that steampunk is an aesthetic label or an aesthetic layer that you can put on almost anything, and that's kind of what makes it stand apart a little bit from a lot of the other subcultures. And the exact term, the steampunking an item, my wedding. We had a steampunk wedding, and the fact that it was it was relatively traditional, but then we just put this layer of aesthetic over a lot of things, and like.
Tell them about the ring bearer.
Oh, I can tell you about my ring bearer. You can see it right there. That's my robot ring bearer. Can I name drop? Is that weird? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. You better.
I'd better name. Well, is anybody familiar with Mythbusters? Yeah. That robot was built by Grandy Mahara. One of my bridesmaids is his girlfriend. You might see their picture together. She's a hot blonde, and she is in that shot there. And on a car drive, my husband and I are having a hard time figuring out a ring bearer because all the little boys in his family were like their moms weren't returning phone calls. And as a joke, like Jenny was like, "Why don't we just have Grant build you a robot?" And Glenn and I are in the front seat of the car like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, that would be cool. Whatever, And then he built it, and it was amazing.
So I shared pictures of your wedding on some of our social media, and then I get a friend request from Grant and Mahar, and I'm like, "There's no way." No. I'm like, "That's not the same guy." No, it was.
Yeah, he is such a big fan. Like, he's a fanboy, which is awesome, and he cosplays and like does game nights and everything like that. And it like takes a little while to get over I've watched you on TV for years, but then you realize he's really awkward too, and you're like, "Oh God, I'm just as awkward as you are. Let's be buddies."
I'm ashamed to admit it's one of the few times I fanboyed ever. I was like, "Oh my God, Grant Mahar's my friend."
He builds robots for fun. I mean, you build amazing stuff, and you guys should work together. You should do the design, and he could build the servos.
I actually, my uncle's roboticist, and I was talking to Grant about the stepper motors that are used in the laser is a robot. I use an industrial cutting laser for a lot of my work, and it basically is a robot. You program to do things and interact in a certain way. And Grant and I were discussing lasers, and he burned up a laser, and I said, well, was it this type of cool? We got all technical, and everyone else was like blah 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 blah. They're talking. We were actually going to see the Batman movie.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah. We went to go have ramen afterwards.
Yes, that was...
Tigers.
Oh, tigers. No, not the tiger thing.
Okay.
So again, although we name drop up here, we are regular folks. We all started as just plain, regular everyday people. We were born.
Except for Thomas.
Yeah.
He was conceived by Odin. He came down.
No, he actually lives in a haunted Victorian house.
I know it's hard to believe, but I'm Scandinavian. I know.
He comes from the land of the ice and snow.
Oh, we had a Zeppelin moment. Thank you.
So anyway, but despite that, I think what comes across is that we're like, oh golly gee, I'm having so much fun, and you can have fun too, and truly that is what it's about. I mean, yes, we look cool, of course, in our outfits, but you know what? You take $25, $30, go down to the Goodwill. If you don't so have someone who does so help you, and you'll look cool too. Really, it's not that hard.
Or have glue and gaff tape.
Yes.
Here's the thing I get all the time. I'm going, "Oh, I'd love to do steampunk, but it's so expensive." And I look at them, I'm like, it is the cheapest hobby I've ever been involved in. Try being involved in anime back before that was hard to find. Drugs were cheaper.
Yeah. Did you ever have VHS's fan subs that you just...
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a BBS server that I would go exchange fan subs with. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I had a bumper sticker that said anime drugs would be cheaper. It really did.
And there are we were discussing this in the last panel, that there are inexpensive ways of doing steampunk. I hate to sound like I'm plugging something. My second book is actually called The Steampunk Adventurer's Guide, and it has projects for 7 on up, people who don't have money. This arm guard here, to make it without the lights, is about $4. It's not leather, it's actually craft foam.
Okay.
That's been all the working on it is actually rubber stamps that I stamped on it. But this makes it cool. That lighting,
it lights up, it's cool.
It lights up, yeah. That lighting system costs $10 at an automotive store. It's the other thing is people say it's too hard to do. The battery pack and the switch are pre-wired onto it as a demo. You can sit there and play with the lights in the auto store and just press a bunch of lights. It's really cool. And pick the ones you want and all that stuff. But it took about 10 minutes to put the lights in this. This whole project took about an hour. So it can be done. It doesn't have to be the most expensive thing that you've ever done.
Yeah, but then you can ramp up complexity till you get that thing.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, there's a point where you can start and you don't have to be intimidated. The point is to start. Start with a low budget and then just keep working up. If it works out for you, fine. And if not, you'll still look cool. I mean, how is this not cool?
Well, like if we're talking about steampunking something, the one time before I took over the track here, I was like, I want to steampunk like a superhero. I mean, if John can get away with Boba Fett, I can do something. And one of the things I liked about steampunk is much what Sheyne was saying, is that I'm not what you would say a super heroic looking gentleman. But for steampunk, you could really just do whatever you want, right? So I had the idea of taking my favorite comic book hero called Captain Marvel, or Shazam for most folks. And if you actually Google steampunk Captain Marvel, that's me. I show up on there. But I took the idea of the Shazam acronym and I made 6 different gadgets to explain his powers. So it was Solomon's wide array goggles and Herculean bracers, and my favorite was the M, which was Mercury Company's experimental jetpack for speed. And so I walked around with this big jetpack and a flight suit that was modeled off an old Bavarian early Air Force outfit. So it's got the big buttons up the side and had the big brass lightning bolt riveted to the center of it. And it was a lot of fun. And so I went around DragonCon and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a steampunk Flash." Yet I went to Comic-Con, and I went to Atlanta's Comic-Con. Wizard World was doing their little tour, and the comic book guys got it instantly, and I felt like a rock star and I was like, so that's what cosplayer guys feel like all the time. This is incredible.
You were the first image. I just did a quick little...
Yep, that's me.
That first image that popped up. That's pretty awesome. That's awesome, sir.
But that was when I decided to go, I'm going to really dig into it. And I found out, it's really not that hard. You just have to learn how to look at things from another angle. Like the jetpack that everyone thinks was the most expensive thing ever. The most expensive piece was buying an insect pest sprayer, brand new, because I filled it with ice and used it as an air conditioning unit. Because as it filled with ice, as it melted on my overheating back, I would use the pump sprayer of the hose, and when you're drinking cold water and you have ice on your back, your body becomes a radiator. I was trucking around the entire con, barely breaking a sweat. It was fantastic. And then when the coolant leak, I had a coolant leak, and I can no longer use the outfit. But other than that, the jetpack, it looks like it cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And this pest sprayer was $40. PVC pipe was a couple of bucks. And just, spray and glue and make it look like it works. You can get a lot out of it.
And one of the things that I always, this isn't a costuming panel, but one of the biggest things that the guiding force of making steampunks is look at shapes, don't look at items. Like, if you, my husband has a pack that has 2 giant AA batteries, like giant batteries, and they're really simple PVC tubes that have been painted, but because instantly we recognize the shape of batteries, and looking at that tube, it looks right. And when you're building simple to complex steampunk props, go into a hardware store, go into a thrift store, and just kind of put almost wax paper over your eyes so you don't see details anymore, because you can spray it off, sand it off, paper mache over it. Just look at the shapes and see how that's going to come together to make a prop.
I often will say, look at things and go, that wants to be something else. Lamps are a good example. When I make ray guns, I use a lot of lamps. A lot of people do because lamps have traditional lamps have a bulbous bottom, which used to be an oil reservoir. Then there's a piece coming up which looks like a barrel, and then at the top you have that little bit that would normally and historically have a little flame on it. Keeping the flame away from that big thing of oil down there is a good idea. And that you turn it sideways and put a handle on it. That is a ray gun. And you start looking at everything. The problem is it's addictive. Suddenly you can't look at anything normally anymore. And then your wife's like, hey, so about that punch bowl I had, nothing. I don't know. What's that armor made from? Nothing. Love you.
Or you have a room full of, I totally have a great idea for this the next time I have a moment.
Yeah.
Bins and bins of fabric or stuff you buy from thrift stores. Like, that's going to be a backpack in 5 years.
I have many a junk drawer now that is getting to the point where the junk cabinets need a room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's JUNQUE because it has a little more class. So I would like to close our moderated portion, and we'll open it up for questions after this one last point that I go over. And each one of you just briefly discuss, do you feel like steampunk is something you want to participate in regularly on into the future? How do you envision your profession evolving within the realm of steampunk? So,
like a wish list, or
when in a couple of years when you're all putting on big funny ears and doing bunny punk and hopping around, I'm going to be the sad git over there still. I got some gears here and I'm making some steampunk and some of my stuff, and no one will play with me, but that's okay. They didn't play with me when I was a kid either. Aww. Yeah, because I was plotting their demise and they found out. I'm going to be a mad scientist regardless of what you do. But yeah, I think it'll evolve in various ways and everything, and because I'm greedy, I'll try to keep up. But I'm not going to stop doing this, even if it doesn't if the popularity goes away. Partly because I'm getting paid too much to do this. So.
Future, gosh. Well, I've got a good thing here. I would hope in the next few months' future we'll fully fund our season 3 Kickstarter.
I was hoping you'd do that. Well done.
Ding. Oh, ding. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a short-term future, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to pitch the League of Steam. We just launched our season 3 Kickstarter. We have 2 seasons, and I really want to make this season 3 totally indie and low budget. And in the League of Steam, of course, we would love to actually have, not that Kickstarter isn't an awesome financial backing, it has enabled us to do things. It has enabled the common maker, filmmaker, game maker to actually bring things to light. But it would be really nice to have real money, like a studio or a company or a network, Sci-Fi Channel, something like that. NBC Universal, whatever. It would be really awesome. I don't think that steampunk has peaked beyond the point where there is a future for production companies like the one that I work for to actually be able to create content that can get out to the masses, and not just our subculture and therefore the extending cultures that radiate away from that. 10, 15 years in the future, I have no idea.
I know on my end what I'd like to do. We started our nonprofit company, and the idea is to fundraise. So long-term wise, I'd like to raise enough funds to give money back. The goal for the club is, we're doing parties and we're doing events. We're also accepting your tax-deductible donations. But what we do with that money is, we would like to give it away. We would like for folks to go, hey, we had 2 very successful events. We've raised X amount of dollars. So let's say if we ended up having a couple grand, carve it up to a couple of $500 grants for the community. Of just going, hey, I'm an author. I'd like to fund a book tour. Here's my grant application. And I'd really love to be able to give money away so that working steampunk artists, no matter what we're talking about, like doing a film series or whatever. Crowdfunding is great and all, but artists need funding and backing and patronage. And I'd love to make a living of, helping to patron the arts.
Oh, that's lovely. Brian?
Yeah, I'll keep doing it until it's not fun anymore. Because it's right now when it's fun, that's when the ideas flow. I notice that any time I try to think too much of it as a business strategy, that's when my hand really cramps up and I can't draw. So I will definitely keep doing that content. Right now I'm working on developing a feature film with these two characters, so that's kind of my goal right now. I'd love, my dream would be to do a stop motion steampunk movie, because I think that medium of animation is perfect for what steampunk is, again, because of the tactileness of it. And again, I think while I love all stop motion movies, a lot of them tend to be dark and creepy, and I'd love to do almost like an Amélie or a French art film version, and I know who I could get for voice talent. So that's kind of my long-term goal.
Lovely. Well, and for me, I am writing a book called Steampunk as a Superculture, and I have promotion cards at the back of the room. I'm hoping to have the book completed by early to mid 2014, so in a year or less, knock on wood. And I will self-publish unless, of course, someone beats down my door at the asylum and finds me and says, "Mademoiselle, we want your book." And then also, I have discovered an up-and-coming steampunk maker, a roboticist, and he and I are collaborating on a robotic suit for Lemois and a robotic prop, and it will be beautiful. Because so much robotics is like the Transformers and scary and wars and kill and bigger than life. And so I wanted to say, I want to do something pretty. Do you make pretty girl robot things? And so we are going to do that, and I'm not certain when that will be completed. So I just say to be continued, and then soon I will have another music video called Sprocky Spittoon, which is my parody of Rocky Raccoon, and that's an animated little video, and look for that. And now I open it up to questions to our lovely audience, so raise your hand. Monsieur?
Yes, my question's for Thomas. I'm heavy mobile equipment mechanic, and
nice.
I was wondering, I'm really new to all this.
So you're going to make a giant power suit, aren't you? This is going to be so cool.
My question is, do you see steampunk in the future being a viable resource? I'm not talking about props. I'm talking about vehicles and such like that.
You mean, do you see that eventually there being steampunk vehicles and people doing it for cars and stuff like that?
Yes, not even steampunk as far as being a reliable resource to use. Do you understand the question?
No.
No.
Okay. I'm not. I used up all my smart earlier today, and I've been drinking this.
I see that.
Do you mean, do you see it as people taking what we're making and drawing and applying it to practical...
Yes, practical use.
Yeah, practical uses for industry and...
I mean, this right here is actually a Bluetooth keyboard that's connected to my phone. This is a practical piece of steampunk. I use it at my house to control the computer that controls my monitor, so I can watch, Netflix and whatever, and look really cool doing it. But there is a large movement towards practical steampunk. Do you remember back when televisions were furniture? Yeah. Do you notice how computers and modern televisions are, what's the term I used? Singed monkey butt hair ugly, I think is the term I used. I think that one of the reasons steampunk is getting kind of popular is people go, wow, my television would look great with a picture frame around it. My thing we've got the functionality. We've got televisions that go onto the internet. We've got televisions that do everything. We've got televisions that look at us and tell us what we should be doing. And people listen. But there's no form. There's no beautiful forms. And I think that is starting to happen. That's one of the reasons I'm employed. People ask me, hey, could you steampunk my laptop? And I go, no. And I go, why? Because in 3 years, you're going to have a steampunk brick. How about I make you a really cool case for the laptop, so your next laptop and then one after that go in it? Or if I steampunk a peripheral, I've done some steampunk printers, which look like beautiful little boxes, and you open them up and they actually play music. But they're your printer. And you know, every time I make one of those, I get orders for 3 more because their friends see it and go, I want one like that, and my wife would like that. And, you know. So that is one of the pushes in steampunk, is making the practical stuff as opposed to just the costumes.
Well, and also it's an aesthetic movement, most definitely, and I think it's part of that counterculture, because I travel all over and I sometimes forget what city I'm in because I'm looking at a Gap or I'm looking at an Express, and I'm like, where am I? I'm in Samesville, you know, and part of the attraction of steampunk, besides the moonshine, is...
I got a panel for that later on tonight.
Stills are very steampunk, you know, they've got those coils. But anyway, we yearn for beauty and we yearn for uniqueness. And I think that is one thing that makers, as Thomas touched on, fulfill. And the fashion, and, you know, making your television nice in your home.
And rebelling against IKEA.
Yes, and sameness. You know, out with sameness.
Steampunk really is the anti-IKEA.
But you can take IKEA and build around it.
One of the things with what you were talking about, here's a funny thing. When I see large equipment, because I've operated backhoes and forklifts and stuff like that, is that the type of equipment you were talking about?
No, I put armor on tanks.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not going to have anything to do with what I'm saying then. But imagine if you had a backhoe, because it has the big piece on it. Imagine if they put painted filigree, did it all black with a painted filigree on it and stuff. I would be following this backhoe everywhere. Can I borrow your backhoe? No, get away from me. No, really. Can I just want to tear something down. What? Do you have a building that needs? No. I just want to tear this front porch off. Why? So I could use your backhoe. Go away. There needs to be more aesthetic to these things.
So, any other questions? Come on.
Questions,
come
comments?
Come on.
Just
You're
throw it
smarter
out
than
there.
Comments.
Comments. Anything
Yes,
you
sir.
like.
Here, I'll go to you.
I'm just kind of curious. It seems that you guys are pretty much the pioneers of this movement or this subgenre. Is there some concern that eventually it's going to become so big where it's mainstream and I don't know, I don't want to say luster, but the appeal kind of dies down, or is there a certain size that you would like to see it be, but not too huge and inclusive?
Yeah, I don't think we can
I
control.
really like that question.
It's a very good question. Yeah.
Come here, I got something for you. I'm giving him a prize. I like that.
Yay!
Well, one thing that I here's a coupon for a free thing wherever my fan table is in the Marriott. It's somewhere. That's $5 off. That'll get you a free pin. All right, we got to wrap this up though. So after this series of comments, we got to be done. But go right ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say that, I mean, it's already happening. You walk into a costume store and there is a children's steampunk costume available. I've got photographs of my husband holding like steampunk goggles and bowlers and fake mustaches. And while it's already happening, I feel that the core of creators and the core of fans, basically you guys, are what making it real. Because yes, there's going to be the girls on Halloween with the little itty bitty skirts being all like, oh my god, I'm like totally steampunk. But their costumes, if you dress like that and then you wear it next to somebody, like half the people in this audience, you know, people are gonna know what looks better and what looks more genuine. And I feel that the fandom is a lot more genuine. Oh, you just pull out a stick and show it off? Right on.
Ooh, Doctor, we love your big stick.
See,
It's all about how you use it.
my view is we don't own this.
Right.
It's not ours. If the world wants to take it, we don't get to say, no, you can't play with us. A lot of people got into fandom because we didn't like the elitism of the jocks or whatever, or somebody because we never got over high school, a lot of us. But we didn't like that. We don't get to do it back. You know, if the world goes, my God, this is a lot of fun. I mean, little old ladies at flea markets will come up to me when I'm wearing my goggles and go, my granddad had goggles like that. Where'd you get those? And I've never had someone go, ugh, about what I was wearing when I do my steampunk stuff. When I wore goth stuff, I had people pulling their kids off the streets and making the sign of the cross. But in steampunk, they go, I've got an old hat here. Would you like to have that? It's going to happen whether we like it or not. And I think it's better to like it than not.
Hey, track guys, can we get the lights back on, please? All right, we need to close this up and get you guys out because we got to set to the next panel. However, I did want to say that all subcultures have that moment where they rise, they grow, they peak, and they die down. But even there's still goths waving the flag, having their nights. I used to go swing dancing, and there's still a swing dance night in Atlanta. I mean, the communities never really go away, but there's always a mainstreaming element of the next new thing. And I do see it as happening, but I don't see it as really affecting the core too much for the reasons already mentioned. But thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you for showing up.
I'd like to invite you all yet again to make sure you rate and review the panel on your DragonCon app.
Thanks to the staff and crew of DragonCon. For more information, please visit dragoncon.org. Special thanks to Dr. Q and everyone at the Alternate History Fan Track. For more information, go to alternatehistory.dragoncon.org. Very special thanks to Veronique Chevalier and our panelists, Dr. Hugh, Brian Kesinger, Thomas Willeford, and Sheyne Fleischer. For more information, please visit their website. Our music was created and performed by Alex White at the Gearheart at gearheart.com. Our graphics were supplied by John Adams at Blithwolf Studios. You can find him at blithwolf@gmail.com. And thank you very much. The experiment will continue.